All right, we're going to go over a couple problems to hopefully get you back into the mindset of what to do here. A player kicks a football from the ground level with an initial velocity of at 27 meters per second at an angle of 30 degrees above the horizontal, and the ball travels the distance in 2.76 seconds. We're asked to find the distance the ball travels before it hits the ground and its maximum height. Well, just like in class, when in doubt, draw it out. And so what we're looking for is we know this, that it goes at an angle of 30 degrees. And what we're going to be looking for is the velocity, or what we'll at least be able to helpfully find, the velocity in the x and the velocity in the y, because we are in charge of trying to find total distance in the x, or range, and then also the h, or max height. When we know also the fact that there is another given for us, and that is we should know our color for our gravity, and so we will need to add gravity in here. I'm going to have to write it in yellow so that it actually can show up, and that is, we're going to use 10 for gravity, because that goes down to negative 10 meters per second squared, just to make our calculations a little bit easier. We do know the fact that the time is 2.76 seconds. Now, the easiest one that we might actually be able to find, once we find it, will be the distance in the range. And so what we're going to do first, though, is we need to calculate the velocity in the x and velocity in the y in those directions. Once we find that, we should be good and be able to do whatever we need to do. So what I'm going to be doing is off camera or off video, you will see notice that I'm going to put the numbers in. I'll speak it for it so you can know. I'm going to take 27 and multiply that by the cosine of 30, and that should give us 4.16. I'm going to round that to 4.2. And then since I'm already in that manner, I'll also do the y as well, mine as well. And so I'm going to take my 27 times it by the sine of 30.
And I must have, might be in radians. And that's not good.
Now that I've fixed the my calculator to not be in radians, I'm going to retake 27 times the cosine of 30. That gives me 23.4. It must look a lot better. 23.4. And then I'm going to take 27 times the sine of 30 to go 13.5. All right, now that I have my two velocities figured out, we should remember that once I have the velocity and I'm looking for the range, that I should be able to find distance in the x is going to be equal to my velocity in the x times my time of 2.76, and that should give me a value of, let's put it in the calculator, 23.4 times 2.76 should give me a value of 64.58. We'll just round that to be a nice number, and of 64.6 meters with that. Now I need to try and find the height. With trying to find the height, I need to use some different calculations, or what I need to really do is I need to use a calculation that we've used a number of times, and to do that, I need to use the distance in the y is going to be equal to 1/2 gt squared. And so now I should be able to use that and go, and a lot of times, and this is why we use 10, because it will make our life a lot easier. So distance in the y is going to be equal to 5, because I'm going to take my 1/2 and times it by 10, which will give me 5. And then all I have to do then is the square my 2.76. If I square that, you will end up 2.76 with 38.1 as my answer. So that should be an example, one of the last problems that you had to do. It should be actually number 6 or so, like that, and we'll go on to the next one. All right, so this one is asking and saying, how do the kicker now kicks the ball with the same speed but at a different angle. And so we need to remember that what our velocity was, and the ball travels a distance of, we have a different distance there. Find the time it takes to travel that distance and its maximum height. All right, here and we're in again. When in doubt, draw it out. It's going to again have that same 27, and so we'll need to find the velocity in the x, velocity in the y, but this angle now is going to be 60. We know what our range is, and that it is 64.6 meters. What we're asked to find now is the time and its new maximum height. Now, some of you might look at the distance in the x direction and go, well, that's the same. Remember, it's going to follow the same because of how the sine and cosine of 60 work. It's going to have that similarity. It's all going to land in the same place. One's just going to go up higher than the other, and so it's going to have a different height. So we really need to do is we need to find the time that it takes. And to find that, we're going to have to work a little bit backwards from what we did. We are going to still find our velocity in the x. So I'm going to take my 2.27 times the cosine of this time will be 60, and it's 13.5, which is really, in it, you're like, why is it opposite? Well, that's because it is the opposite now of the 30, which would have given us that same value. So it's that trigonomic function that we look at, and that the sine and cosine of 30 and 60 are similar, and that's what gives us these same numbers. They're just switched into different spots, and we move through. And wrote it out wrong. And so we have 23.4. Gravity is still going down, and we'll still use 10. So to find our time, we will need to, again, we're going to utilize the distance is equal to velocity times time. But this time, no pun intended, we are going to utilize the fact that I have a little bit different, and what I'm going to be solving for is my t. So I need to divide both sides by 13.5. So that equals 1 times t, which is just t, 13.5. I take my 64.6, divide that by 13.5, and I will get a time, new time, of 4.8. Let's say I think we'll just go with 4.8 on that. 4.8 seconds. And so I can write that up there. 4.8 seconds. And now that is again going to allow me to find out what the distance is, but this time, again, because we're solving for h is going to be the same equation as we just did before, is equal to 1/2 gt squared. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to utilize the fact that it's 5, and I'm going to multiply that by 4.8 squared. 4.8 squared times 5, and I will get 115 as 115.2 as my answer for that. So it actually goes fairly high with that, and so we have all of that for us, and we should be able to hopefully go and continue moving along.